Hello again, YouTube land. So I thought I'd check in with you, share a couple of thoughts that have been running around my head the last couple of days. Yeah, all right, just dive right in, I guess. Sorry, there's just a little too much tint matching between the glasses and the plaid shirt. Yeah, I know, I'm wearing plaid, which actually has color. Surprise! I do actually like plaid. No, I'm not that butch. I just grew up in Maine, where in many parts of the state, plaid is a way of life. If you've never been, I don't know how to explain it. If you've been, I don't need to go on, you already know. So let's see. Recent thoughts of the week. Okay, so this past week, yes, I talk about my dad a lot, surprisingly. My dad did a semi-live podcast, I think it was, that he had recorded in the studio, or maybe it was actually live because it was with Steve. I don't know, whatever. They were talking about children growing up, listening to certain music because Davy Jones had passed, and, you know, Steve was priding himself on never telling kids he was in a car with to turn their music off because it was crap, and that's a good thing. I mean, I'm glad for that. And my dad made a couple of comments, one of which was that he had never had to tell me that because I grew up listening to his music, which isn't the full story. I'm not going to, argue the truth of the veracity of the statement. I did listen to his music because he was driving. But that's a two-pronged thing because, well, actually it's more than two, because my mother, what you got to remember is my mother barely let me have 2 hours of TV a night, assuming I wasn't grounded, which was more often the case than not. And she also didn't let me go anywhere. I mean, grounded or not grounded, I had no after school activities. The one and only year I did was 6th grade. I joined the swim team, even though I wasn't allowed to officially compete. I was part of like the exhibition squad or something. And one night coming home from a meet, I was the last person on the bus, the team bus coming home, because people got dropped off at certain stops. And this is in Portland, Maine. I wasn't the last kid on the bus, driving around New York. But even though it was Maine and it was, whatever, she freaked out and immediately pulled me from the team. So, a lot of faith and trust and confidence my mother had in the world and me. But that being said, I only ever went anywhere with them, primarily with him. My dad and I would go out and do certain things, assuming my mother didn't create an excuse to take them away from me. But otherwise, she was in the car, and they listened to relatively the same generation of music. My parents were only 1 year different in age, and their musical tastes weren't that drastically different given the era they grew up in. But the other thing that my dad mentioned was that he briefly, and again, semi-truthfully, told an anecdote about he was supposed to take me, all right, my age is showing, forgive me. He was supposed to take me to see Hanson in concert. Yes, I was a Hanson fan. Shoot me now, shoot me now. But that was the reality. And he told it peripherally and vaguely about we were supposed to go, and my mother created a reason for us not to go, and I ended up being grounded, and he felt bad about it. So when they came back to Maine, we went and saw a show then. Couple of points. One, yes, we were supposed to go, but it wasn't just a Hanson concert. The one we got tickets to was their first concert ever anywhere in Boston. So it wasn't just like, I mean, those tickets, the stubs probably could have been collector's items at a certain point. Second of all, the reason she created for me not to go was that she didn't like how I had done the laundry. Let's forget the fact that I was a 12-year-old doing everyone's laundry. It was that I didn't do it right. And that I hadn't brushed my teeth often enough. This happened one weekend. I'd been really busy, basically, doing everything this woman was ordering me around the house to do. You know, cleaning the kitchen and the vacuuming and doing this laundry wrongly, apparently. And I had forgotten to brush my teeth for like a day. So Sunday she calls me on it because Friday night she had secretively had my dad put tape around the top of my toothbrush to prove I wasn't caring for my teeth. Okay, the reason that's especially funny to me is that you have to remember, by the time I was 12, my mother had no seriously functioning teeth. The reality is she had, by that point in my life, had every top tooth in her mouth removed. No, I'm not exaggerating. She had serious dental work on the bottom. She was in possession of a good denture plate that she never used, because then she'd have to eat something more than ramen and puffed Cheetos. So, yes, Lorenzo and I did eventually go to a Hanson concert. The thing of that, though, is that this thing with the original concert happened, I want to say 5 or 6. I was about 12. Yeah, 95 or 6. And the concert he and I ended up going to was in 2004. Just let that sink in for a second. 10 years later. In my life thus far, I have never met someone who enjoyed the same bands at age 22 as they enjoyed at age 12. Maybe there are groups in the 70s and 80s who get around that. But that's the strange and special thing about that. Well, it's a 3-decade period, really, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Those bands somehow hit on something that is timeless. I mean, timeless. People from the 50s, not so much. Groups from the 90s, God, I hope not. So, yeah. But I did grow up listening to his music, so I was a Monkees fan from a long time ago. See previous podcast about meeting Davy Jones. But we also listen to groups, like the Kinks, the Knack, the Who, the Turtles, the Mamas and the Papas, Carole King, Carly Simon, Hendrix, the Zombies. Oh, please. Time of the Season is one of my favorite songs ever written. The Cowbells. I did listen to some Donnie and Marie. I did listen to Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, the Jackson 5. A whole melange, really, of music. Thomas Dolby, Duran Duran, the Bangles, the Beatles. There's the Who, any number of groups that I could name that I love. Many of which might be 52s, many of which my dad did introduce me to. But yeah, so we did go, and it was in 2004. And the thing about this is parents for you. And I don't care how old you are, you had parents, more likely than not. And most of you probably will one day be parents. Here's the reality. Your memory, after you have kids, whether or not you're the one who gives birth, the act of having children in your life that you are responsible for, I am convinced, alters the chemical capacity of your brain. Period. Okay? Period. There is no way that two people can have such distinctly different memories having shared the experience, when the only difference is the age of the people and the fact that one of them holds the title parent. Because I called my dad and left him a message with this little bit of information. This is why she took the tickets away. This is the year we actually went. Dude calls me back, lands on my head. He got it wrong on live radio. You know? What the hell? Ugh. My dad irks me. Not as much as my mother used to. Although, to be fair, that was outright malicious hate. But, whatever. But, you know, parents don't let things go. I mean, I understand kids aren't very good at letting things go either, and as you age, you go from being the one to the other to the next, and you take on all of these different titles and descriptions, but you gotta let it go, man. Let it go. And I don't mean let it go like only mention it when someone else brings it up. I mean fucking let it go. Oh my God. I'm the one who was lied to. I'm the one who was manipulated. I'm the one who was subjected to the tyranny that was my mother, which would be a whole series of 15-minute video podcasts unto itself, which, you know, Stephen King couldn't write the horror I lived through. So why are you coming down on me for correcting the year we went to a concert? Really? God. There are days when I question. And I'm not going to say what I question. I just question. More so than usual, which says a lot for someone with ADHD. I mention it because I was on Twitter with someone about the reason I really like the B-52s and why they're timeless. This goes to show how tangential my thought trains are. I don't know if I should call it thought trains. That implies there's track and structure. It really isn't. But in future podcast news, I will keep you updated about some dietary changes, given that I'm not doing Weight Watchers anymore. That was brief. And some lifestyle pattern alterations. I don't know. I was watching Good Eats on Hulu, and it was the episode where he talks about Alton Brown. He talks about fixing his dieta, which I guess is the original Greek word for way of life or function of life or something, which is where the word diet comes from. And I'm sorry, but I can't respect a word related to food that involves dye. And it's not even dye like, oh, I'm going to dye my hair. No, die. As in death, as in muerte, as in mortality, as in, the end. I can't respect a word like that. I can't. Not when it's related to food. I'm too Italian. Food is everything. But yes, that is some of the stuff I will be trying to remember to update everyone on in future podcasts, vlogs, blogs? The hell do you call these? I don't care. That's why I call this the House of Conundrum. Because I don't know. I know I don't know. I know I'm never gonna know. And if you can manage to make any sense out of this, I'll tell you right now, you're crazier than me. Welcome to the club. So, that was a quick 15 minutes, wasn't it? I will see you all next time. No, I don't know when that'll be, because I have no structure to how I post this. But hopefully the weather where you are is as fan-frickin-tastic as it is here. New York, in March, early March, a streak of 70-degree days. Yes!